Hello everyone, Tom Dale here. We're going to be building a Nuxt project using a headless Shopify setup. So I'm going to go ahead and start building this right now, and then we'll talk through what the rest of the project is going to be as we get the building going on. Here we go. So this is going to take us through the questions here for creating a Nuxt app. The one thing is I am going to be using Tailwind CSS. Won't be using any of the modules or tools. I will use Vercel and Jamstack hosting and the JS config since I'm using the VS Code editor. So the reason I wanted to build this was because learning more about headless commerce brought up this idea of Shopify can do a lot of things well. They can do the checkout process well, manage your inventory, images, place to manage your images, that kind of stuff. But the performance on the Shopify front end isn't very good. But this idea that I could use something to bring in all of those items from Shopify to my actual kind of Jamstack project that'll be faster intrigues me a lot. So that's why I'm wanting to show how to do this here. So the first thing I'm going to want to install is the Nuxt Shopify SDK. It's going to have integration with Shopify to bring in the images, to do the checkout process, all that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and start to install that now. Once it's installed, we are going to update the Nuxt config over here with these module exports. Next, let's create our Shopify account. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started here and just create a free trial on Shopify. So let's go ahead and enter our info here. All right, so in order to get an API key going, we're going to have to go down to the apps, and we're going to manage some private apps. All right. Let's enable it here. So to go headless with Shopify, you do need a API key. So we're going to go ahead and just do our Nuxt front end. Put a little email here. So we do need the storefront API, and we're going to want to turn on all of these here. Let's create the app. So now that the app has been created, you'll just scroll down and you'll see there'll be an API key here, and that's the API key we're going to want to use in the .env file that we're going to make. Okay, so now that we have our code editor open, we're going to go ahead and go to our Nuxt config and be adding in the modules here. So under modules, we're going to add Nuxt Shopify. Then we're going to be adding the Shopify after that. We need domain and storefront access token. Now we're going to use a .env file to pass these. So I'll name it Shopify domain storefront access token. Now, just as a reminder, in Shopify there is an API key, but that's not what we want. We want the storefront access token. Even though I'm going to name this whatever, but just want to make it clear you use the right one, right? And unoptimized, true. All right, now we're going to, I need to use this. Now we're going to add that .env file right here. So we'll create a .env file, and we named them Shopify domain. equals. Let's see. And then for the storefront access token, yeah, it's called storefront access token, but again, what did I call it? I called it Shopify access token. There we go. And then we'll get that from the Shopify page, but I'm going to obscure that now. Okay, now that we've set up our .env files, I'm going to go ahead and start messing with the index page here. So a lot of this stuff here, let's just go ahead and get rid of it all, I think, and start from scratch. So I'll get rid of all of this. Not going to need this container. I can actually get rid of all the styling because I'm going to use Tailwind. Okay, so inside of this div, I will not do that. There we go. Now, for Tailwind, if you're unfamiliar with it, you're just going to enter items in the class section, and it's going to be kind of shortcuts for a couple different things. So here's a saved one I have here, and this is going to add, like a margin of 6, and then we're going to start using grid columns, and identify at which sizes we're going to use how many columns. I'm using kind of custom named sizes. So I'm going to go ahead and build that out in Tailwind as well. So let's make a Tailwind config.js. All right, so I'm just modifying the theme that comes standard by identifying certain columns, right? So essentially, what I'm wanting to happen is when we are, oh yeah, you can see the preview right here. Okay, so when we're 1290 pixels and larger on our browser, I want to view three columns. When we're between 850 and the 1290, I want to see 2 columns, and then anything else, do 1 column, aka below 850 pixels. So that's what I've identified here. All right. Do one more. So I'm gonna want to create I keep doing this, a component in this section, and that's where I'm gonna set up the images and everything. I don't really want to use, I just want to put placeholders just so we can see what it looks like. So I'll still make the component, but again, we're not going to use any of the API quite yet. Here I have some more Tailwind stuff. I'm adding a border, rounding it, adding a little gray background, a shadow hover. Okay, so for my component, let's call it product widget. All right. And that's fine for now, so let's go ahead and make that component. All right, so I named it product widget. Oh, product widget.view. Set up a little template here. I don't need this style. All right. So we're going to make another div inside of here. Oh my goodness, why do you keep doing that? Okay. This is, I'm going to put the image inside of here. So image, and this to have a source equals, close the image down here. We can also do, I'm going to crop it and do margin auto. Let's just set a fixed width and height of 380. Might as well do lazy loading. Whoops. Yeah. All right. And below it, I'm going to want a title and a description. So let's go ahead and make another one right here. And I'll use a H4, it doesn't really matter, I guess. And this is product title. And we'll go ahead and throw in a little description too, and let me add a little more. I just have all my CSS saved over here in the other screen. So we're adding a little margin for the title, something about the font and the text, we're truncating it. All right. And for the description, I'll leave it in the same overall div. Make this smaller. Keep the same color I was using. Is it gray 700? There we go. Product description. There we go. So we are looking at the image right here, right here. We're doing okay. Perfect. Yeah, I think all I need to do, I don't even think I need to do this, but we'll name it. Okay, so let's go ahead and put a placeholder image in here. I'm going to use a Phil Murray. Okay, let's go ahead and start up the server here and see what it looks like. Here we go. So we've got, we wrote in the product title, product description, the Phil Murray. It's we have a good project widget here. It is hovering when I go over it. So it's good. I think next we are going to want to add a couple products actually into Shopify, and then let's call them using this Nuxt Shopify SDK we set up to actually see what the JSON response looks like and format it all to work in Nuxt. Okay, so let's add these products. So I'm going to go into the add products section here. And let's see what we have. Let's go ahead and add a hoodie. Little hoodie. Little hoodie. Love. Put some price in here. Okay, so we now have 3 products now, and we should be able to call these via our SDK. So let's go ahead and set that up. Okay, so I'm going to need to add in a fetch for the SDK to the Shopify to get the response. just to kind of test out what we might get, I'm actually just going to quickly create a little place where I can maybe show the JSON. So I'm going to make a little list here real quick. Let's go ahead and give it a little margin and put the text in the center. Shopify JSON response. And then we'll put a list in here. We will need to do a v4. I'm going to call it product. So let's do product in products. We need a key. I'm going to use the ID, so product.id. JSON response. So let's make that real quick right here. Might as well register this component and the name as well. Index page components product widget, not view. And then import product widget from yes. I did the components wrong, didn't I? Yeah. All right. And the next step is going to be, this should be right here, the async data. So I went and copied this. So I got it from here, right? So if you go into the next steps here for components, you're going to see they have an option to do a fetch. I want to fetch all. But this is fetching a specific ID, and you can keep going through and you'll see here's a fetch all. So async data Shopify constant products is gonna await the SDK fetch to Shopify.product fetch everything, because I just want to see what it looks like, and then return it all as products. So I should be able to go up here and right here now just put product, and we should see a JSON response. Let's see here. Here we go. Okay, so this is showing everything that would come from that fetch all. So you can see it's broken up by product, because you can see here's that blue hoodie I made. And we should have, images. We can see there's a URL in here. It's under source. Okay, so we can use all this info. So like, for example, if I wanted to get this source right here, right? I could do product dot images dot source 0 to show the first one. So let's see that idea. And it should show each one for each product, right? And the .0 is because you could put multiple images for Shopify. So it's showing the first one, the primary, right? Here we go. So 1, 2, 3. We have the blue hoodie, the holographic sticker, the gamer jersey. So if I replace this into our image source, then I should see 3 different widgets come through with this image, right? So let's try that idea. I'm going to go to my product widget right here. I actually also, before I do that, I need to identify that product. It's going to equal product when I go in there. Okay, I just remembered that I need to actually add in this v4 stuff I did here before the product widget as well. So let me go ahead and add the same thing here. I'm gonna need to do a vbind as well. Yep, okay. This is just to bring it into the component. And then for the component, I need to also identify the product as a prop, right? Props. It's going to be a type object. Default is null. Okay, so product is yellow, this purple is all matching up. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to replace this image like we said with the product.images 0.source. We are going to need to add a colon here to make it register. There you go. Let's see. Yes. Okay. So we have the 3 images here now. We can see they are, yep, this is coming from the Shopify, right? Okay, perfect. Now I still have just the default description and title in here, so we can also replace that pretty easily. Product.title, and then this one. Product.description. You can imagine you could bring in anything, price, who knows, right? Yep, holographic sticker, blue hoodie, it's all here. These are all still working. This is perfect. I think yep, okay. So now the next obvious thing is, it's pretty heavy, right? 10 megabytes. Yeah. This is probably all coming from the Nuxt side. So when we do a build, then it's gonna lower this drastically, right? And we'll go ahead and test that out soon. One last thing I want to do is we need to add a little more optimization to the images. I want to make them look similar in size next to each other, and I also don't really want to use the Shopify image URLs. I'm going to use imagix URLs. So let me show you how I'm going to go ahead and go about doing that. Okay, the first thing I want to do is install a Vue imagix plugin. So here I have the GitHub link to it. So npm install Vue imagix. I'll let this run here. Next, we will be adding a Vue imagix.js file in the plugins folder. Vue imagix.js. And I have this already copied here, but we're going to import Vue from Vue, Vue imagix, where Vue use, then you list your domain and any default parameters. So for the domain, let's go up here and see how I would do that. So with your imagix source, I'm going to choose a web folder, and the web folder is going to point at a domain and replace that portion of the domain and CNAME it to this, right? So this is my imagix domain, and I'm pointing it at whatever Shopify is pointed at. So if you remember, these are what my URLs look like from Shopify. So it's cdn.shopify files, and then we have these unique IDs associated with my account and products. So these will always be the same for my image products, and your numbers will change certainly, right? But I'm copying this portion and putting it as a web folder here. That, okay. Let's check on this. Do an npm fix. Right. Next, it wanted us to also, and register the plugin on the Nuxt config, right? Here we go. They want me to do it. Squiggly plugins. Okay. Plugins, vue imagix.js. Yep, that is good. Go ahead and rerun our environment here. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my product widget where I have my source. Now I need to bring in the source, but the one thing about this imagix plugin is I declared the domain here. So I really just need to bring in the name of the URL, or the name of the file, right? Because if I just pass in directly the product images source, it's going to kind of like double encode, right? So I'm going to create a new source and then just do a slice. So let's do that in methods here. I'm going to create it, call it image source. Return this dot product dot images 0 dot source dot slice. Okay, so I'm going to want to slice the beginning of it here. So essentially all of this, right? I believe the number is, I believe it's 57 characters. Now I also want to go the other way. I want to drop these ones back here as well. I don't want the v equals. It's not needed. If I'm going to change the URL, I'll just use a different one, or I'll purge it using imagix. So I don't need this versioning record that Shopify is using. So take 57 off the beginning, take 13 off the end. And let's see what this looks like. So now I'm going to pass this in here. And I do need to change up this to make it ix dash, and then I'm calling in that view SDK from imagix. I'm going to declare this as fixed. I think we could be there. I want to add some parameters as well, but let's just see what we're doing now. Okay, so let's see what we've done here. It is working. IX blue hoodie. It's got all these parameters here. Obviously, it's blurry. These are too large, or I can change the parameters. That's fine. You can see I generated a 1x, 2x, 3x, kind of a DPR variable here, or device pixelation variable. So depending what device pixelation your browser is, it'll automatically choose the right one, and it'll also lower the quality as the DPR value increases, because when you add more pixels you can compress it more, and it's okay. But yeah, I'm loading in at 214 wide, which is the problem here. And so let me add some imagix parameters to get the effect I want. So I'm going to pass in something called imagix params. I'm going to need to add it to the props too, so let's add that real quick. We have product. Okay, so it's going to be a string. I'm going to put the colon here. So what I'm going to want to use are different fits. So I want to do fit, fill, meaning force it to be a certain size, and then if there's, but don't crop it, don't lose any part of my picture, right? But I want everything to be the same size, the 380 by 380, despite of the aspect ratio. And then if there's extra white or space left around, let's fill that space with a color, and the color is going to match the background, so it won't look odd. The color I used is this. I'm also going to do a trim auto, so if there's any random unnecessary white space, try to minimalize it to zoom in on the product. But again, don't crop any of it out. Okay, let's see how that, there we go. Okay. So this made them all the same size. They're no longer blurry. I mentioned this idea of, so this is obviously a different aspect ratio than these, right? When I'm dragging the image away, you can see there's space on the top and bottom, and it centered it. But that space on the top and bottom isn't noticeable because it's the same color as this product widget background, right? So it's not really noticeable. Like if I were to change the color, you'll notice right away. Let's go with a white. See, you see it change slightly. I mean, I guess we could get more drastic. Yeah, so I'm filling in that extra space. Maybe I'll show this trim works as well. There. So you see how these, when I took pictures of them, I had unnecessary space all around them when I took the photo. And I wanted instead eradicate the unnecessary space. So that's what this trim auto is doing. And here's the right color here. Yeah, great. Now when I'm inspecting again, you can see all the parameters here are working. It is doing the different device pixel ratios. It's doing intelligent formatting and reasonable compression to ensure they look crisp and good. Okay, perfect. All right, I'm liking what's happened here. Not only did I switch out the Shopify URLs because I wanted them to be optimized more, but I also wanted to add this kind of smart trimming around them, and also adding in the background color and making sure they look a little more in sync with each other. Great. Well, I think that is it. I think I have everything I wanted to do. I'm able to bring in obviously a lot more things. As you can imagine, you can continue to use the Nuxt Shopify plugin to easily do the checkout process. Using Nuxt, you could easily create dynamic pages. So when you click in each product, it takes you to the product page. I am using a fetch all right now, but I only have 3 products and I'm on the main page, so I'm fine fetching all the products. But again, when you would click into the product page, you wouldn't use the fetch all, you would use the specific fetch of the parameter of the product, which, again, it's easy to do it dynamically with Nuxt. Okay, the last thing we're going to want to do is publish this to Vercel. So I did mention the idea that I was going to host it, do some Jamstack hosting, and I want to have it reflect the universal SSR. So in order to do that, Vercel is really one of the better ones to do that with. So let's create a vercel.json file. I'm going to add this in. So it's just the builds to help tell it to run off the Nuxt config when doing the Vercel builder. Just is very simple. Next, I'm going to open up my GitHub desktop. Let's add a local repository. Initial commit. Not private. And the Shopify test 0. Here we go. Go to Vercel. New project. It detects my new one I just did now. We'll import it. So I am going to want to add the environment variables, right? So the items that you put in your .env file, put right here, and then you're going to deploy. That should be the final thing you need to do. Okay, I have added both values, and one thing to note is in the .env file, I would put the values with the parentheses, but here I didn't need to do that. But yeah, let's go ahead and deploy. Okay, seems like we have success. Let's visit it. Here we go. So, inspect this. It is looking the way we were expecting. The page is about 582 kilobytes. Now, remember I did want to set up the universal SSR. The reason I wanted to do that is because when I make a change in Shopify, I want it to reflect here without having to redeploy. So to show that idea, let's just change this description right here. Everyone need to have. Okay, so let's see, it should take just a little moment to update that. Let's also test the page speed score for this site. Great, 98 on mobile, desktop 100. Love it. And there we go. You can already see, I just refreshed again, and this is already updated. Didn't have to redeploy anything, didn't have to set up any webhooks. It's just running off of that Nuxt Shopify SDK we set up. Again, thank you so much. Talk to you all soon.